Welcome to the Hardtech Podcast.
And everybody, welcome back to the Hardtech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre and Grant, the usual suspect, Grant Chapman.
Back at it again. So soon.
Yeah, so soon. It's almost like we're here every single week. So super excited today. We have Josh and Herbie from Articulate Labs. And these guys, I'm honestly a huge fan of their technology. Having had 3 or 4 different knee surgeries in my life, every time we have a conversation, I'm like, man, I really wish I had your guys' technology when I was recovering. But for those who are listening, who are less familiar with you guys, I'd love you to kick it off on a quick intro.
Sure. My name is Josh Rabinowitz. I'm co-founder and CEO of Articulate Labs.
Herbie Kirn. I'm the technical side of CEO.
Awesome. And so what does Articulate Labs do for those who need the entry-level elevator pitch?
All right. The Articulate Labs builds wearable devices to help turn everyday activity into physical therapy, and in particular, strength training therapy, throughout everyday activity using movement-synchronous electrical muscle stimulation. The goal with the technology is to effectively augment your activity as you're walking your dog, shopping for groceries, getting in and out of your car, turning those into necessary strength training repetitions outside of a physical therapy clinic or gym. First place we're applying that, DeAndre was mentioning, is addressing quadriceps or thigh muscle weakness and dysfunction for people who are coping with chronic knee conditions, of which there are 15 million plus in the U.S., plus another million recovering from some form of knee surgery every year.
Awesome. And so this is not something you're going to just strap on and do. This is synchronous. So it's when you're moving, it's actively firing the muscles to work them out slightly harder than they would just through general activity to get you that strength training that you need.
Yeah, and it's born out of existing research.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen both in Herbie's lived experience plus what's published. We saw that electrical muscle stimulation combined with voluntary muscle activation leads to far better strength gains than stimulation applied passively. Mm-hmm. The challenge, and when we talk a little bit about Herbie's story, is the vast majority of electrical muscle stimulation as it exists right now is on pre-programmed stimulation sequences, and you are moving your limbs, flexing your muscle in time with the stimulation pulses.
So you have to time it manually to have the stim pulses do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
And that's different than you guys, where you guys are timing the stims based on the user's movement.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So,
and I think one of the coolest parts is you don't have to be stationary.
Oh, no.
Right, you don't have to be you don't have to be at a PT laying down like with all the stickers on. You can actually just be recovering your leg on as you're walking around in daily life. Is that right?
In fact, it was funny this morning when we were running a demo, we have someone who's wearing the device and is standing still and is looking at us like, so what does it do? Like, when does it start? It's like, it's not doing anything. It's not going to do anything right now. Like this is not. That's been the standard of care, both with the existing muscle stimulation devices, and then you're kind of fly by night as seen on TV type of jobs.
the Ab Shocker 6000 give you a six pack while you drink your beer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Where it's like the less you do, the better. We're here. We're up front saying this isn't going to do anything for you if you stay still. You need to get up. You need to move. And we are expecting that we're going to attract a population that seeks to achieve those goals, that is not strictly looking to get from the couch to the refrigerator and back, but being physically capable of maintaining their independence, being able to travel, being able to care for their loved ones, so on and so forth.
Well, I think the going through your guys' I've seen some decks, so I can pull some questions out of here that I know you guys answer. But no, the neat part that I always saw was that the strength training wasn't just important for time to recovery; it was important for recovering properly. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the most unique thing that I hadn't heard about in other recovery therapies that you guys are nailing because you're doing it synchronously. You're preventing the bad habits from forming from having a atrophied muscle after a surgery or something like that. You're rapidly as fast you can getting the muscles back to the strength they should be, so you don't develop a walking the wrong way. Talk about your bow-legged step for a bit.
Oh, opposite knock knee. Yeah,
knock knee. That was it.
Totally. I'd love for you guys to dive into this a bit, but I learned this whenever we were having a conversation before about if you don't actually recover all the muscles at once, you can actually start to have a knock-knee effect. Mm-hmm. right? Because part of the muscle is pulling a bit more than the other one, and that could actually lead to more obviously more long-term issues with the knee. Can you guys dive into that a little bit and how that's solving that problem?
Well, a lot of those problems, a lot of knee problems, and a lot of knee osteoarthritis is caused by mistiming in the first place. Common theory on patellofemoral pain is that the medial, the muscle in the middle of the leg, is firing late. And if you fire it earlier, now all of a sudden you don't have knee pain. And we did see evidence of that in one of our trials. But I guess we're concentrating on individual muscles so as to be able to treat that knee as a 3D object instead of a 2D, as is commonly thought of. Most people say this is a hinge. What we're doing is deliberately staying away from the prime mover of the knee. We're deliberately getting the side muscles so that we can create torque as necessary to keep things straight.
And this is like stability and being stable and straight is more important than being strong to climb the stairs.
Oh, yes.
Because that stability will prevent further injury.
It does. It does in a big way. And the thing that's protecting you are the muscles.
Mm-hmm. And what are they protecting outside of the muscles? Like, is this protecting the joint and the cartilage? And, is that the key thing that's causing the pain is ironically not the muscles. It's what the muscles aren't guarding against.
Right. That's exactly it. It's an interference in there. And eventually you'll wear down the cartilage, then you're interference with bone. Mm-hmm. That's even more fun.
I couldn't imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you guys have been working on this for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Been a really cool startup journey. And I think part of that is there's this mismatch between what the market thinks and knows that they want and what is coming. And I think you guys are at that tip of the spear trying to solve that medical breakthrough that isn't the painkiller. This is the long-term fix, right? And so how's that journey been for you guys to find your go-to-market play? Who are you going to find that is your cheerleader on the customer side and what you're doing? Because, you're selling a medical device. Who is the pathway to get to the end patient for you guys? Is this PTs, hospitals?
So that changes from almost year to year so far.
Story of startup. We learn new things every day.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, but it's also, the market changes.
Yeah.
Administrations change.
I guess that does have a huge impact on it, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, for instance, 2-3 years ago, we were seeing tremendous, what we're interpreting as significant demand signal out of the armed forces with regards to interest in our devices. And it's not that has diminished as much as it hasn't scaled. And we just also run into various administrative issues. We just had someone that was really geeked about working with us on a proposal to the Air Force. Kind of come back to us yesterday and say, look, I'm getting shipped out to a new position, a new Air Force base. When that happens, I'm basically leaving you high and dry.
There's no one to hand off the relationship to.
Yeah. Well, and he's being upfront saying this handoff is not going to work. Like, I've done this before. This is not going to fly. Everyone's going to be miserable. So we're better off just ping me in a year when I'm in my new spot, and we'll try then.
And he's established enough to have the political capital locally to go forward with working with you guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, and this is the political side, of working with any defense contract, right? Everyone thinks it's bureaucracy and red tape and process, but it's still relational. It's no different than raising money. You're no different getting your initial beachhead sales at a hospital. It's actually about relationships. The only difference is these people don't control where they work, right? They get moved around, they get shipped out, and that's the challenge.
Yeah. So that I brought that up only to say, our thought was, for a second was, okay, we're gonna make the military our beachhead, and we're gonna sell into facilities where we have human performance optimization, protection of the force and family, various types of physical fitness and rehabilitation, and while again we're still seeing some traction there, it's really fallen back from where we expected it to be by this point, such that we're kind of back to the original plan of focusing predominantly on pre-post knee replacement care, because that's where there's the greatest strength and activation deficits that are measured, as well as the greatest costs to control.
Oh, absolutely.
But then then reimbursement becomes a consideration again. And we're in the durable medical equipment space where there has been a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in the past. And that in the recent past, the federal government, I think this is just a handful of months ago, put a 6-month moratorium on any new durable medical equipment suppliers getting
Greenlit. Yeah.
Greenlit, yeah. So in that point we're going to pivot back to being a DME manufacturer. Oh wait, maybe not. So then you look at others in the space, particularly remote virtual physical therapy, like a Sword Health, a Hinge Health, Plethy, Simplify Health. They're not messing with reimbursement at all. They're not messing with hospitals at all.
Yeah, they're going out of pocket.
Yeah, out of pocket, or VA, or self-insured companies. But that's so that kind of slowly pivoting there and trying to figure out what is our funnel going to look like, and how are we going to where we're going to meet these people, how are we going to sell to them, how are we going to close, trying to figure that out. While also trying to figure out how we're going to raise money and
build hardware and run a company and
So it's been a challenge. And some of it, truthfully, is that there have been places where we haven't been able to move fast enough or build fast enough or scale fast enough to really make use of the opportunities that were there
and the connections and everything.
Yes, but then some of it was just. The terrain just moved
under your feet.
Under your feet, yeah.
If only we had stability.
Yeah, boy, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
It's what it means is then we just have multiple go-to-market strategies, and we're not pursuing all of them simultaneously, but minimally we are prepared for those contingencies, for lack of a better term, as in terms, if we meet individuals or companies or larger organizations that have interest in a particular area, we've got an argument waiting for them as to why they should take a look at what we're building.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other questions I had too, Josh and Herbie, is just around that fundraising journey. Can I dive into that a little bit and what that landscape has been like for you guys over the time?
I'll own up to the fact that first, I struggle. Everybody struggles with fundraising. Nobody enjoys fundraising.
There's a few crazy people that is the only thing that they like, but no one likes those people.
Yeah. It takes someone different, and I've adapted parts of myself to fit, but I haven't adapted enough. Particularly the guilt and the shame of asking anyone for anything. That's it's a real struggle, and. As a result, we've wound up finding money out everywhere else but with traditional investors. We have pulled in some individual angel funding, predominantly from investors in Herbie's last startup, but otherwise the majority of our money has come from non-dilutive grants from Army and Air Force. It's come from awards. It's come from investment from accelerators like TechStars and MHub. So we can say that we're a venture-backed organization, but we've truthfully never done the full court press 80 hours a week.
We're going to go close around in the next 60 days or die trying moment, right?
Yeah. It's personally, it's difficult for me to do that when there's so many other things going on, and in product development, in operations, finance, in clinical trial management, regulatory reimbursement, and that when you're having these conversations and someone says, well, I don't think you've advanced far enough in area X, Y, or Z. It's like every moment I'm spending talking to you, I could have been addressing that problem.
Yeah.
But the problem is I come in with that mindset before even having that conversation. And I think I sort of short-circuit myself there. So I'm working through not just making sure that we got the best business plan possible, but also feeling that level of comfort and confidence to be able to go out and contact folks about what we're doing, and to present it as an opportunity as opposed to, having our hands out and treating this like this is, poverty.
And it's such a wild dichotomy as a founder, having to tread the line between the two things, handout and this is the best opportunity you've ever had. Because you want to do it honestly. And you're like, I think this is going to be awesome. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. I think what we're doing is the best thing ever, or I wouldn't be spending my whole life doing this. On the other side, you're like, I have no idea if we're going to make everyone millionaires or we're going to light all the money on fire trying. And that dichotomy, most founders don't talk about. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, that guilt side. Because it's so rarely talked about you've raised money, and I've helped tons of founders actually go through the stages of grief of fundraising.
Sure.
And I think it's the emotional side of that journey is almost, if not more important than, hey, do you have the right metrics in your pitch deck?
Sure.
Right?
No, I would tend to agree. I think one of the things that was really hard for me was you absolutely feel the burden once you start raising capital, right? Especially from angels, VCs as well. It really doesn't matter where you're getting the capital from, but you almost feel, especially if you're early on, if you haven't been through that kind of the VC, rigmarole before.
Meat grinder.
You kind of feel like, man, I owe these people. They gave me all this money, and I've lit $500,000 on fire. We're not where we want to be. But I got some really good advice. I think it might have been from a YouTube video I watched or from a mentor of mine. I really can't remember. But you're not taking a handout when you raise capital. They're buying something from you. It's an exchange. You're giving me capital and you're getting equity in this company. We both have deemed that it's worth insert this amount of money. That it's probably not, but we're going to say that's our valuation and we're going to move on.
It's the lottery ticket you're selling today.
That's right. And so whether it's a win or a loss, when it comes to raising money, you almost have to kind of start looking at it like that. Like, hey, they're expecting to lose this money, right? Whenever you bet on a startup, right? If you're betting on one, if you're an angel investor or you're like an investor at all worth your salt, and you're going to be betting on 5 companies, you're going to be a really bad investor because those 5 companies are going to fail statistically speaking, right? So you need to be casting a way wider net, invest in 10, 20, 30 companies, and that's when you can have the one that makes up for the other 29 that didn't work out. But that took me a long time to learn on getting over that guilt. I mean, I used to keep me up. I did a monthly investor update deck that, if the metrics weren't exactly where I wanted them to be, my stomach would be curling 2 weeks ahead of time. And then it gave me 2 weeks to do some work, and then in the very next 2 weeks after that, I would be freaking out again and then going to do it the following month. And I'm sure you guys have felt that before. I would say that it takes quite a while to get past the point of thinking, no, this isn't a handout. You're buying something, and we're on this road together. If it works out great, and if it doesn't, then that was the bet all along. Right?
But it's interesting that that mindset has really helped me with the grant writing side of things. Our experience working with, we have a $1.3 million award through the Medical Technology Enterprise Consortium. For full disclosure, that we're a sub-grantee, but we worked with the Henry M. Jackson Foundation for Advancing Military Medicine as well as Keller Army Community Hospital at West Point. All of us worked together on this proposal and got it, and then we got to actually see people using the device, and getting requests for these devices.
When can I have one?
So then you're actually creating value for somebody else, and particularly, being someone who's athletic. Everyone here has been an athlete. There's, we're working with folks who are coming off of ACL reconstruction. It means that minimally for the next 9 months, they are not the person they were yesterday. In terms of their physical capability, a chunk of their identity is gone. Their ability to contribute to their team
or their craft,
is gone, like in the blink of an eye. Being able to do something about that is really fulfilling, and having we've started to see that there is a connection between bringing money in and creating value for somebody. Where I think in a lot of fundraising, that isn't always the case, and some of it is understandable. If you're like pre-seed, you're basically selling vaporware and hope and dreams, truthfully, seeing stuff like in fintech, B2B SaaS, now various wrappers around LLMs, where it's arbitrage. And it's just what seems like the most deeply cynical belief that better things aren't possible. We can just slow the drop into oblivion, and being able to get outside of that and do something that we think is actually truly creative and helpful is made us a lot more confident. Made me a lot more confident. Made me a lot more capable of bringing in money. But again, primarily in that clinical trial, pilot, demo type of situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's and the fact that we're a hard tech company means you actually need even more capital than your software counterparts. Even if they're also doing something good and altruistic and to make people's lives better, you still have it harder.
And the other side of it is, it's either you have a ton of capital coming in, or you have something. You have what Herbie's done, which has been pretty much one man hardware, firmware, form factor development, which didn't happen instantly. So then there's questions about, well, you guys have been around for forever and you haven't done X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, we didn't have the money. We had to use the time.
We almost bootstrapped this thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the next half of the podcast I'd like to dive into. Because we haven't had a really deep technical episode in a couple, and you guys were the ones I knew I could pull this on. So for the users or the listeners, I'd love to dive into exactly what you can share about your device and what it does, and then let's jump into how you had to build these things. I know you pulled some rabbits out of a couple of hats to make this thing work. So Herbie, what is, for the users that are hardware people that speak electronics and device, what are you guys doing in the device? Let's start at the high level.
Sure. Well, highest level, we've got an inertial measurement unit up on the femur. Mm-hmm. We've got an inertial measurement unit down on the tibia. So we know what's going on spatially with that joint. Mm-hmm. We've got the two connections to it. We're running a 2-point load model inside, 2 points because there are two condylar load-bearing surfaces inside the knee. Watching that model, then as the user moves, we're also watching to see what the angle is between the femur and the tibia when the joint is not loaded, when his foot is off the ground.
Awesome.
We're taking that as our happy state, we'll say, for the knee. Mm-hmm. Then we have the physician or the PT hit a button on an app when that patient is actively doing something that's problematic, something that hurts or something that's going to cause damage. Mm-hmm. He hits a button on the app when the patient's doing that. The device looks at those load vectors and says, okay, I'm going to remember those. And in the future, if I see these vectors or something close to it,
or heading that direction.
Yeah, heading that direction, we're going to stimulate.
Okay. So we're going to fire the muscles. Mm-hmm. And then are you putting the electrodes on the same place for most people, or are you tuning the electrode placement for each individual based on their anatomy, morphology of what you're trying to solve for?
The form of stimulation we're using is a higher frequency, a lot higher frequency than is usually used.
Okay.
So we don't rely upon motor points.
Okay, so you can just generally activate.
Yep.
And let me translate this like layperson talk. You're not trying to turn on and off the muscle like you're the one turning it on. You're just saying a single, hey, everyone, let's go. And you're generally advertising, guys, let's go, not trying to mechanically stim with your electronics. Is that closer to the fact? If you're not being localized, are you exciting the whole area?
We are exciting the whole area, but we do have a focus.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a focus in the muscle.
Got it.
So, normally what I'll do is get the electrodes around that belly, and from where I stimulate, then it'll recruit outward.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a radial outward that it's a drop off of some probably squared or cubic function, but it drops off from the location you're targeting. Mm-hmm. So you know the angle of the leg and the knee joint, and you're training with the physician and the clinician the activities you want to stim right before, or you want to either avoid or continue to promote. Mm-hmm. And then your algorithm is watching the motion in real time, looking for we're approaching trigger, guys, let's get ready, and then triggers. Muscles fire, builds strength, prevents bad actions happening, losing the stability as you and I were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. How do you pull that off in something that you wear?
It was rough. It took a while.
Yeah.
And my neighbors were pretty used to me running around the block with strange things on me.
And a laptop in your hand, probably.
Almost. Really it was. No, but the only other piece we we ran into a huge obstacle with using low-frequency stimulation. Because it relies on motor points, there's another downside to that, is that long distance runners are really, really hard to stimulate with a low frequency stimulator.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I found that out in the gait lab at Stanford.
You found that out live?
I found it out live.
That's interesting. So is it like the people that are long distance runners that have muscles that are very used to, going long distance, are they tougher, or is there some morphology that's different?
Yeah, there is a morphological difference. There's slow twitch is what most people would refer to it. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, we walked in, and this is, there was a researcher out there, had a really nice gait lab, invited us out for a demo. So we go out, and I was going to be the test subject. And he said, well, you're an amputee. You can't, your gait is so screwed.
We don't know how to track it. Yeah.
Right. So this won't work. I had our guy who was our VP of sales at the time, great guy. He said, okay, well, I'll be the test subject. No big deal. Threw shorts on him, threw a device on him, and we couldn't light him up.
Because he was a runner.
He was a runner. I was using low freak stim. Just wouldn't work. So we went back and took a couple months and figured out what was going on. I bought a box of VMG needles so I can throw needles into the muscle and find out,
get deeper and find out what's going on.
Where is it going? I figured that out. Amazing losses in the leg. I mean, at the time I was using like 100 milliamps.
Yeah.
Put 100 milliamps at the surface. What's actually doing the work is the 3 milliamps that makes it down to the core of the muscle.
So we work on stim for a couple of other products, both for stim and for detection of bioelectric signals. And the fascinating thing about tissue, both electrically and thermally, is it's not uniform.
Right.
Muscle and fat behave wildly differently. Skin, its own damn animal, whether it's wet, dry, clammy. If you're young, if you're old, like what's crazy is the pigment of your skin and the age of the person radically change resistance of the skin tissue.
Well, it's not resistance.
Well, you're right. It's impedance and it's complex.
Yeah, and it's, yep.
But, so thank you for the correction. But it changes both on the, who you're treating and how are they doing. Are they sweaty? Are they dry? And all these things. And calibrating for that when you're trying to sense or to send power, like 3 milliamps to the core of the leg, you might have to overdrive 100 milliamps to the surface. And this is so hard to do. So how did you learn to modulate, or is your higher frequency helping you push through the impedance of the body to make it more uniform to get more power where you need it?
Yeah, no, I mean, the impedance really comes from capacitance, most of it. Because, if you look at resistance, you might be up a couple 100K.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of current there. By taking the freak up, I'm staying away from the C fibers down on the bottom.
Yep.
So that gets the pain down a little bit. And at the higher frequency, I can put a lot more energy into that muscle.
Interesting.
Because it's a capacitor. Capacitive reactance formula, 1/2 pi FC.
Yep, and humans are big, salty creatures, so you have all this ionic movement that is good for capacitance and bad for current carrying. Interesting.
Yeah. But that was a major help.
Yeah. No, I bet. And so you've got a high-frequency stim in a mobile device, and you got a battery power it, and you have to do all your math on device. What was the challenge on compute and timing? We've talked about this. I've been baited with this question because I found it fascinating the first time. How are you getting things to trigger at the right time? Because human gait is slow on human terms, but the electrical signals that are coming through are quite fast for you to trigger on. So how are you grabbing that?
Years and years ago, I was consulting to General Motors Research. They gave me a car with a manual transmission in it, 5-speed, beautiful transmission. And they said, we want this to act like an automatic. So fine. So I put a shaft encoder on the thing and started playing with it, put motors on the transmission to shift gears for it, motor on the clutch, did all that. I was using, at that time, regular conventional programming techniques, straight code. Everything was in assembler back then. But nonetheless, the machines were slow. So, okay.
So you had to be fast.
You had to be fast. I ran into trouble with that because what I found is that, clearances in the trans change dramatically with temperature. They change dramatically with oil.
Well, and the resistance, mechanical resistance of the shift knob with oil temp is crazy different than a manual.
Oh, yeah.
So the torque you needed to put in your motors changed over temp and how hot it was and how warmed up the car is. Oh, man.
So I'm looking at this and I'm pulling my hair out because this thing just is not reproducible. Then I realized that, the computer, it's got sensors out there the CPU knows a hell of a lot better than I do what's going on with this trans. So I started using adaptive code at that point. Back then, we were using things like genetic algorithms, things like this. These are forerunners with what people would call AI now.
Yeah, like machine learning, basically.
Well, yeah, of a sort.
Yeah, like the precursor to what we'd call machine learning was the genetic algorithms that would update their algorithm, but not open-ended.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. That and heuristic algorithms also, because you want to see the behavior of this thing. So that got really interesting because it worked really well. I expanded that out to a real-time operating system because I then moved on to consulting to Chrysler. And on one project, it was a crash project. They gave me a bunch of programmers to help on the project who didn't have a lot of experience. So I had to be able to protect against inexperienced programmers and get a crash project out real quick. It caused me to write a bunch of functions in this operating system that appear to be runtime code. They appear to be actually generating something that's going to execute. They do not.
They just call functions?
No. What they do, I put a task manager behind everything that it is the one who's actually doing that exercise. So it's code that has been vetted very firmly. I mean, we beat the hell out of that code first, so we know it's good. But then if somebody messes it up, we've got protection.
Got it.
We're using that real-time operating system or an extension of it in the device. And what it gives me, though, it allows me to avoid a lot of the time thieves in a project. Interrupts are one thing that I do not like. I mean, why
Does not fill you full of joy?
No. I mean, why do you want to spend all this time remembering where you came from, go off, drop everything, do something sporadically, and then
remember everything what you were doing?
Right. I mean, it's a total waste of time. Much the same with a lot of communication stuff using semaphores. Same thing. You spend more time in the semaphores than you do on your actual code.
Right.
By dispensing with those, it allows me to get a very, very quick response to something. It also allows me to create a multitasking operating environment for coders who don't know how to write environments like that.
Yeah.
So they're writing multitasking code and they don't know it.
Yeah, they've got bumpers on. They don't think they're writing something that's complex, and you put the guardrails up so they don't override each other in an action. The timing doesn't crash.
Then I put that into a hierarchical state structure so that then I've got higher capability, higher permissions level that I can use to protect code running at a lower level.
Got it.
So I've got guardrails or a place to put guardrails if I want them.
Yeah. So you don't end up calling one function, something else happening at the same time that needs the memory or the access to the GPIO that the other function was using. Got it.
Yep.
And so this allows you to get, because you guys are also not only stimulating the muscles, are you reading anything from back on those electrode channels? Any feedback loops?
Yeah. We are pulling back EMG signals. We in the future will be using acoustic myography as well.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah, because, acoustic myography's got a much better dynamic range.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, I would not have known that. I've never dug into it. That's crazy.
No, I don't understand why more people aren't using AMG, to be honest.
So explain that for all of us like we're 5.
No. No, I mean, with EMG, you've got it's a low-level signal. You don't know where it came from because it's following Ohm's law.
Right. Yep. You got an antenna out there and you're picking up electrical signals moving around.
Yeah, it's a wet finger in the air.
Yep.
And it's maybe 10 microvolts.
Right. Yeah, it's really tiny and you're having to amplify the piss out of it to read it.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, for AMG, I can take a piece of permanently polarized Kynar film, a film mic, throw it on the skin, exercise the quad or the whatever.
Any muscle.
And I'll get a volt signal out of that thing.
Interesting. And it's reacting to the acoustic, like the actual pressure wave.
Well, no, the muscles make sound. They make a rumble when you contract them. You can hear,
Oh, I've got to go try this now. Get a stethoscope and go do something. That's hilarious.
Yeah. The guy who originally found it, he was over in, I think it was in Great Britain, described that noise as cobblestone roads.
Yeah. That is so cool. So you can listen to the sound to detect firing, not firing, things going on. That is really, really cool.
Yeah. Out of that, we've pulled out fatigue for one thing. Another is pure strength. What's the contractile force that's going on?
How loud is this contraction?
Yeah.
That is so neat. We have had another guest on the podcast that is doing something in the IMU space that can tell runner fatigue from a single IMU location on the body that draws what they call a force portrait. So they basically take the motion of your sacrum, and they are drawing a three-dimensional force portrait of where all the accelerations are going in your hips. And from that, they can tell if you're starting to get fatigued as long as you ran with it when you weren't fatigued first. And it's amazing that their algorithm couldn't find it just with pure like machine learning on the math side, but they started doing image comparison to this portrait that was drawing the force vector, and all of a sudden their algorithms could start picking out, oh, you're getting fatigue, you're favoring your right side. Such a cool aspect that humans are visual creatures. We interpret math better on graphs, right? Most humans interpret math better when it's visual. So do computers, which is mind blowing. But I think this is so cool that you are able to use this acoustic signal to get way more resolution than what we all would have thought would be easier electrically, because we think of muscles being things that your brain fires with signals, but it's louder than it is electrically loud, which is cool.
No, it is cool.
And it's also cause and effect.
Right.
So it doesn't. Nothing here is to diminish necessarily the value of EMG. We're just looking at, EMG is the signal impulse to drive
the precursor.
It's the precursor. That's what drives the muscle to contract. AMG is actually giving you some feedback on what is that muscle doing.
It did
as a
contract,
result of that,
and how much and where. That's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, to do all that, you need quick processing.
Yep.
And you need to be able to know when your tasks are going to get there. So I moved away from a control flow process entirely. We're using a data flow system. By going to a data flow system follows the data. It does not follow a control sequence that you've ordained.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not deterministic. You don't know, you can't flowchart the thing and tell you it's going to happen now.
Yeah.
So that makes people sometimes nervous. But by the same token, the other side of that is that you can directly follow the data and you can map exactly from any movement down to the effect instantly with that kind of a system. And it's given me a system right now. We're using a legacy processor because I had just ported to a contemporary processor when COVID hit.
Yep.
So we couldn't get them.
Of course not.
Went back to the legacy processor. And on that legacy processor, right now, I'm running at a 50 microsecond latency before task runs.
That's nuts. And so you got that all running, and you need that to capture the gait, so you fire at the right time, so it's not fighting me as I'm walking or running with this device on.
Right.
It's feeling what I call a magic carpet moment, right? We were building an e-bike before they were cool, and old school e-bikes, you'd start pedaling, and you'd feel the motor kick in and push you along. And you'd stop pedaling, and it would still push you for another second or half second, and then it would stop, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's really unnerving when you're wanting to slow down.
Yeah.
And we were able, when we were building this e-bike, to get a control loop that was in time with a force sensor, torque sensor in the crank. So when you pressed harder with your right leg than you with your left, we provided more torque on the right downstroke than the left, and it felt like you were in an Ironman suit. It was just responding to you as a bicycle. You've done the same thing, but for stimulating my own darn muscles. That's super cool.
Yeah.
It's necessary because even though we think everyone walks the exact same way, there are minuscule differences in position, motion, acceleration of the limbs as people are walking. Now you add in an injury for which, one that has its own gait impacts, and then over time you have compensatory movements being developed as people try to take load off of an injured joint and wind up putting more load on another. And we saw this in the feasibility study where, it's not just that people who had hurt knees didn't bend it. They also might basically pivot on the good leg and lift up one whole side of their body to move, or they might drag a leg behind them. There's all kinds of strategies that people unconsciously develop, and you can't guess what those are going to be from the developer's bench. You need to have something that's going to be able to learn from and adapt to those situations, rather than being prescriptive about how someone is walking right now, how they should be walking in the future.
And I think this is all tying into the future of med device right now that we're seeing in the industry, and you guys are doing before it was cool. What we're seeing is software has become ubiquitous. Anyone can write software that does cool things. Arbitrage is the most useful thing the software does these days. But hardware because machine learning in the computers, like the upload side, in the databases, it's gotten so good and so cheap and so easy to implement because we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? We can call libraries that are open source that people wrote to go do autonomous driving or much more complex things. Mm-hmm. We can now take all this data from the med device world and crunch numbers on it and find patterns, find diagnoses and things coming on. You guys are probably collecting great data to learn what does movement look like. How do you make this happen? And we're entering this world where the medical devices not only are acting in the moment to treat, they're diagnosing what's wrong, helping someone understand mechanics of what's going on inside. Kind of like radiology used to be the key for us. Can we now sense it by watching you move and walk? And you can also do monitoring post-operation, not just the recovery. Hey, telling the doctor, is the person recovering? Are they doing their steps? Are they doing their thing? And down here, this is what falls into your and I world of sales is like, man, what people love to see in med device is not a one shot in the pan device. They want to see something that can help, diagnose, treat, and then long-term monitor, because that's where long-term value comes for patients, right? Mm-hmm. It isn't just a one pill you take to make it go away. It is a thing that helps you figure out, do you need the pill? It is the pill, and it makes sure you took the pill. And I think you and I have seen this all over, that these med device companies are having a way easier time to go to market because they're selling a bigger picture.
Yep,
right?
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's super cool to watch you guys have all the pieces of the bigger picture.
But even still, there's still struggles to get through there. I think, in particular, in the space of physical medicine, mm-hmm. which is tertiary, it's difficult when we are talking with a potential hospital that's reaching out looking for care solutions for the remote or austere patients. Mm-hmm. That, at the end of the day, they're kind of weighing a knee device versus something for better heart monitoring or better, kidney monitoring, better respiratory monitoring, and saying, well, what do I care what someone's knee is doing, even though lack of mobility may be a contributing factor to all of those comorbidities that they're more freaked out about right now. But we still treat physiology, even though like ambulation is unbelievable. Like it's one of the gifts we just absolutely take for granted every day. Mm-hmm. But we still treat it. We treat it as we treat physiology as a lower science, and we treat movement as nice to have, not need to have.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because this nice to have prevents all the other comorbidities like being out of shape in your cardiovascular system or your pulmonary mm-hmm. system, or even overweight or depressed. Right, like insert all the higher things, things that kill more people. Mm-hmm. This is what actually ended them at one of their death certificate. A lot of that can be prevented by having good movement.
Mm-hmm. I would say in large part, most of it's actually prevented by good movement. This is genetic. I mean, there's so many things mm-hmm. about if you stop moving around and stop being active because you have an injured leg or knee or whatever it ends up being. Fast forward, insert number of months later, maybe a couple too many like Lay's bags of chips, you're going to be, mm-hmm. maybe having a couple issues, right? Mm-hmm. So
yeah. So it's still we're still working on that health economic value proposition on something that is closer to a vitamin than a pain pill, and mm-hmm. saying if we can improve quadriceps strength and or activation by X%, it's going to save you Y thousand or Z tens of thousands of dollars in the future.
Later.
Yeah. Yep. And for the self-insured company, then it's about lost productivity. Mm-hmm. How much quicker can you get someone back to work? In sports medicine, it's return to sport. In military, return to duty, return to load. Mm-hmm. All about maximizing rehabilitation, cutting time, and getting people back to doing what you're paying them to do.
Yeah.
And then one of the other questions I have is for those who are listening, what are some things that you guys have? Can they go follow you different places or different things you guys have coming up that you might want to shout out on the podcast here now?
Boy, we're bad at that. I'm bad at that. I told people I would be posting like once or twice a week on LinkedIn, and I'm already, that's one New Year's resolution that's already in the trash.
Well, we can help you with this.
I'm excited about it.
This is why we do this.
Yeah. So LinkedIn's probably the place where we're most active. We are trying to maintain physical presences at places that are going to be relevant. For instance, next week we'll be at the at Army's Holistic Health and Fitness Symposium out in the Norfolk area. We'll be at the IEEE Hardtech Entrepreneurship Summit in Boston a few weeks after that. If it's related to hard tech, if it's related to physiology, we'll try to be there. So that's that intersection's a decent place of how to find us. Otherwise, both of us are pretty regular fixtures at the MHub facility in Chicago. Folks do enjoy coming by, seeing Herbie's workspace. I enjoy watching people come by and ask for random things and being surprised that Herbie can produce it from a random bin in a corner. That's a couple places where we can be found.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Grant.
I was saying, shout out to MHub for anyone listening. Articulate Lab's got a lab there. We've got an office there with Hunter there, so it is a really cool place to go do hard tech.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at starting a hard tech business and you're in the Midwest and looking to go towards the density of being surrounded by like-minded crazy people, I think MHub is probably the best place in the Midwest for it. Not just because you get to hang out with these two guys.
One of the perks, for sure.
One of the perks.
Yeah. And also, everyone, if you guys are listening in and you guys want to check out their website, it's articulatelabs.tech, so you can find more information on the products. Everybody, this is the Hardtech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Heracus, with my ever so gracious co-host, Grant Chapman.
I'm just here because you let me.
Josh, Herbie, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks
See
for
you guys
coming in.
next week.
See ya.